Up next, we're going to invite Marcelino Alvarez to the stage. He is the co-founder and CEO of Photon Marine. And if you would like to tour their virtual showroom, you can go try out their AR headset in the back and see the boats that they're working on. And well, I don't want to steal what Marcelino's going to say. But Photon Marine is a gap fund portfolio company. They are electrifying the marine industry. As you can imagine, there are a lot of boats on the East Coast and the West Coast. I was on Lake Washington just a couple days ago, and there were a lot of boats that I was looking at, and every one of them could have an electric motor. So let's welcome Marcelino up to talk about what they're building.
Thank you. I'm Blav. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Really excited to share a little bit more about Photon Marine. I want to thank the Elevate Capital family for all their support, as well as a number of our existing investors and friends that are here in the room today. I thought I'd start with just a little bit of a snapshot of Photon and then kind of share a little bit of an update kind of through the lens of the commercial customers that we talk to, which I think for the investors who have seen my pitch a dozen times or so, this will at least be new content that you all haven't ever seen. So just at a high level, so we've raised about $8 million to date, and I have a giant asterisk there because we're in the middle of a $5 million round. Until we complete that, we will truly hit that $8 million. Thank you. We're really, really close. More on that later. We've got 7 full-time employees here in Portland, Oregon. We've got a number of contractors that are helping us as well, and proceeds from the round will help us continue to hire and grow our team, which we're really excited about. Some big news on the non-dilutive side as well. We recently were awarded a $2.7 million Canadian grant from the Canadian Ocean Supercluster to pursue a consortium of electric vessel expertise in Canada. So we now have a subsidiary in British Columbia, which we're really excited about, heading to Halifax tomorrow, which is not easy to get to, but a beautiful spot with great seafood. And then we've also applied for various federal funds as well, and the direct to Photon side of those, about $3.5 million. And again, more on that in a little bit. And our pipeline on the commercial side is it's 27.8 million. There's a lot of interest in this space. We weigh it, so obviously we're not going to land everything in the pipeline, but approaching $12 million worth of commercial interest from customers, and we'll talk more about that as well. I want to first just talk about why the Elevate team is awesome. And I will say that, as a gap fund recipient, Elevate participated in our pre-seed round as well as our current round that we're in. I think the most important thing is Nitin and Ben and Brandon, they have your back. And that manifests itself in very different ways. Sometimes it's just, me talking to Ben and we're just kind of trading notes on things or conversations, and just having someone to talk to that is just a good listening ear as a founder. Sometimes it's very lonely to kind of complain. You don't want to complain amongst your colleagues, amongst your friends, amongst wider group investors, but it always feels really good when I have an opportunity just to kind of catch up and vent and just get perspective from how they've seen other companies pursue their individual journeys. The warm intros are great. I think there have been a number of investors, customers, partners, just introductions that they make. We got connected to Thai and participated in the Thai Global event last year. They're just really great with the introductions, and I think this is a credit to what they've built, is that when they make an intro, the other parties respond. They respond quickly, and they're engaged. And then they show up, and I mean this literally. So this is Nitin in Miami. You'll see that he looks like he belongs in Miami. He was ready to go. And he showed up at the Miami International Boat Show last year. And I was on the water side doing sea trials, so I didn't realize this, but Nitin spent quite a bit of time at our booth talking to anyone who would listen. Nitin built a cult following in Miami and took, I think, more people out on the water in 3 days than I've ever seen anyone bring. And so, Nitin, thank you for coming to Miami. It's, Florida's complicated. I'm from Florida, but, it's complicated. And I think Nitin has embraced it in a really positive way. And, this year was telling me all about what my hometown has done since, which, as a cry to Portland and Oregon and our ex-dev people in the room, Miami is crushing it. We should be too. All right, let's talk about workboats. One of the things that when we talk to our commercial customers that I think really, really resonates, and we've seen this when we're out on demonstrations, that workboats are actually tools. They're not pleasure boats. They're not leisure boats. They're not things that you take care of. They're things that have a very distinct purpose. And They could be used by ports and utilities to kind of move people and products, do water quality monitoring. They could be used by whale watching operators to get near really, really large mammals. Sometimes they're used just to move people across a body of water. It would be great if we had one of those things here. Often they can be used, for mariculture. So whether it's, farmed fish or kelp farming or oysters, these are all the types of vessels that are certainly applicable towards electrification. And when we think about, sort of the challenges that, operators face in this space, the first one is fuel. We talked to a business owner in Anacortes who has one boat. And she spends $176,000 a year on fuel for that one boat. Gas is really expensive. Supply chains are generally broken. And so when a part breaks on that boat, that business operator has to wait for it. It takes time for them to get that part. That's lost revenue. It's time off the water. You've got labor force that's reduced. You have fewer people that are able to operate boats, fewer people able to fix boats. And then maintenance. Maintenance is a pain for boats because most motors on boats were designed for that recreational boater that Ben was talking about that spend at most maybe 50 hours a year on their boats. And so for them, their maintenance is annual. It's every 100 hours do a thing. Well, the commercial operators see that every 6 weeks or so. So their boats have to come out of the water. It's expensive. It's a pain. Getting it scheduled is obnoxious. So the good news that we see is that for a lot of commercial operators, there's some really optimal use cases for electrification. And the ones that kind of have this sort of common set of categories when we're talking to a boat builder kind of follows this sort of pattern, right? These are boats that depart from the same dock, they go to the same floating fishnet or rock with a penguin on it, and they kind of come back to it. They come back to a dock that already has charging infrastructure. So unlike trying to electrify every car in America and build super networks of chargers, marinas are already micro-charging, kind of hubs that already exist. They've got basically the equivalent of level 2 chargers ready to go, which is good enough to charge a system overnight. You're seeing on the commercial side access to regulations as well as incentives, and we certainly prefer carrots to sticks, but on the commercial side you're seeing a little bit of both, which you're never really going to see on the recreational side. And there are a lot of sort of large organizations that have made some ambitious ESG commitments, and they're struggling to step into it. So all these pledges of like, we're going to decarbonize everything by 2030, there are not enough electric motors to do that. And yet you've got really large governments that are trying to make those pledges without the technology to meet their needs. So value prop for electric, really similar to what you see on land with a car, right? It's an efficient system. You're getting torque right out of the gate. It's a system that has a lower total cost of ownership, lower maintenance and kind of cost. It's economical. It's environmentally responsible, which means everything from like not spilling fuel and oil into the water, but it also doesn't smell. It also makes a lot less noise. And I think some of the most poignant moments that we've had when we've taken people out on the water is when, a curmudgeon-y old fisher from Alaska who had to get dragged by his feet to get out on the water within minutes, remarks, if I had had this earlier in my career, I would still have my hearing. And just immediately flipped from this is the dumbest idea ever to how do we get this all in Alaska? And that led actually to an investment from a notable investor. So moments like that are what we thrive for, and they're easy to maintain. You don't have as many moving parts you can kind of move through. This is our system. This is where we're taking it. It's a lower profile motor. I would encourage you to go check it out on the Apple Vision Pro demo that my colleague Charles has. We're building software too, Diane. We're building software. So there's software that goes on the vessel as well as in the cloud. Really? That's great to know. There we go. And then in terms of like how we reach our customers, so I'm kind of shifting a bit more into maybe more investor, but I'm going to talk about one of these three. So obviously we've got relationships with customers, but boat builders are really our sort of key channel partner. They're already building boats for commercial customers, and boat builders are an awesome and incredibly quirky bunch. And so understanding how they sell to their customers, understanding how they position their technology, adapting their whole designs to really make sense for electric. This is really key to our success. I'll talk about direct sales and trade shows some other time, not today. Here's the thing. Not all tools are equal, right? Think of your garage, your tool shed. You have a different tool for a different thing, and boat holes are the same thing. So imagine a monohull, really great as a utility boat. You throw a bunch of rusted tools in it, you don't kind of care. It's not going to go really far. It's not going to go really fast, but it's like a workhorse vessel in your fleet. Then you've got catamarans. And catamarans are really cool because they have a lot less drag, particularly if they have like a semi-foil that's kind of pushing the hull out of the water. Then you get even less drag, and they're really, really cool. And so those are really great for more range. And then, you know, if you operate in a glacial lake where you don't have big logs or anything, fully floating boats, really awesome. I know the Puget Sound is trying to get them logs, but, you know, on paper, it makes sense. So good luck to you, Puget Sound. These are some of the boats that we're working on. Again, I would just encourage you to go check out my co-founder and colleague, Charles, over there, who's going to have some Apple Vision Pro demos. You can see this in 3D. This is an aluminum workboat. It's made by Tacoma-based Silverback Marine. It's a workhorse of our fleet. We see a lot of interest from ports and utilities. These are some specs about it. We can talk to you about those later. This is a carbon fiber M-shaped hull made by a group called Ghostworks in Michigan. It's super cool because it's lightweight and very stealthy. On their website, they've got a lot of guns on this boat. We like it without guns. M-shaped hull can hold a lot of batteries. We like it for whale watching and maybe like marine like surveying and reference, but if you're in the military, this might be the boat for you. And then this is a semi-foiling catamaran made in South Africa by a group called Haisukat. Has a semi-foil that kind of lifts the hull out of the water, and we're really excited about this for like whale watching, military, tribal groups that are kind of interested in marine electrification. We're working with a lot of boat builders, but this is sort of like a snapshot of what we would show a potential customer to understand the various trade-offs between different hull designs and how they might apply it to their fleet. Ben stole my thunder, but there's an Apple Vision Pro demo in the corner. All right, a bit about company. We're raising a $5 million seed round. We've got about 4.1 million committed to that. Thank you for a number of investors in this room who have been part of our journey along the way. The $15 million pre-money valuation. We've got 500K sort of soft circled from existing investors that may come in, which leaves about 400K remaining. If anyone's interested, come talk. I talked a little bit about the non-dilutive stuff. So we've received a $2.7 million Canadian grant at 73 cents on the dollar, if anyone wants to do that math. I don't. To build out a consortium of electric vessel expertise. And this is a 2-year program. We're really, really excited. We're getting about 1.3 million of that direct to Photon. And we're going to be doing a lot of marine testing in Victoria, British Columbia, as well as in Halifax. And then we've applied for nearly $13 million worth of EPA grants in their Clean Port Electrification Program. About 3.5 million of that would be direct to Photon. Unfortunately, none of those dollars are coming to Oregon-based ports. I would love to work with people to figure out how we get Oregon in on some of that federal dollars. Most of it is going up to Washington, which has been very receptive to these programs. And so receptive that they also have state matching dollars that we're going after as well. They've got 60 million set aside to match both those EPA grants, both from their Department of Commerce as well as Department of Transportation, which, again, as we talk about policy things that we could see here, really kind of creating ways to accelerate state matching dollars would be awesome. These are a snapshot of logos of companies that are in our pipeline. You'll see a lot of ports and utility companies there. We're doing a lot of work with those industries because there is a ton of EPA, IRA, Department of Transportation money in this space. And we're hoping to do pilots with a number of these customers later this year and into next. Other incentives, which I can talk about at some other point in time. But the key point is that on the west coast of the US, clean fuel subsidies, carb credits, core credits, places like California, you will have cost parity between a gas vessel and an electric one. And we're super excited about that. We would love to see programs like that in Washington and Oregon as well. And that's what we're up to. Thank you.
We do have time for a few questions, but first I do want to mention that I believe earlier Marcelino lost a 28-foot boat. So if you do find that somewhere in the room, you get a prize. You have to use the air headset, though.
Yes.
Question?
Great presentation, Marcelino. I love it when founders are doing more than just building great companies. You didn't mention it here, but can you talk about just briefly about your vision for electrify the waterfront? Many people here may not know what you're trying to do beyond your company as it benefits the Portland community.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. So I really think that Oregon should be a leader in clean tech. And I think clean tech as a label is too broad. I think specifically Oregon should be a leader in electric vehicle manufacturing, everything from energy storage to how that energy is used in mobility. As a company that is building its technology on Swan Island, we've been able to leverage resources like those established by Daimler and PGE to build out infrastructure from suppliers to the actual charging. We have the nation's first megawatt charger on Swan Island. They call it Electric Island, and very few people know about that. We don't market ourselves well. It's there. And so as we talk about like the things that are catalytic to companies such as ours, infrastructure, both in terms of the actual physical infrastructure, but also those businesses are part of that. We have an opportunity to lead. You know, the waterway from Bonneville Dam to Astoria, from Oregon City out to the coast, could be the country's first electric river. We could have charging stations so that you could go all up and down the Willamette, down to Eugene, now that they're restoring the locks, and you can do so on an electric boat. But it takes leadership to go after the federal funding to support the electrification of these vessels. And while we're targeting commercial, this would also benefit recreational boaters who are seeking to electrify those types of boats as well. And I think that the technology, you know, to do that across electrification of various, vehicles isn't just limited to boats. You know, a tractor, an electric boat, a snowmobile, they all use the same systems: batteries, motors, high voltage cables. And so you could build industry expertise that opens up a plethora of industries with just sort of commonality. And yes, I would love for that facility one day to be waterfront, because I think we should have the region's first electric marina. There is no reason why the boating on the Willamette shouldn't be clean, quiet boating, and why we shouldn't have more accessibility for the mechanically propelled boats like kayaks and paddle boards, and have restaurants on the waterfront. Like every major city that has had an industrial working waterfront has looked over the last several decades in creating transformative projects to transition those to accessible waterfronts. And I really lament every time that I'm on the river, and it's very often, how much of our waterways are completely wasted. And so I would love to see that be part of Portland, not because it benefits us, honestly, because I think it benefits everybody. It's truly about access to a waterfront that belongs to us as Portlanders, as Oregonians, and not to Superfund sites and lawyers battling out over who pays for which parcel and disturbs which plot of sand or dirt. So yeah, thank you. Is that recording? Can we stop? Can you turn that red light off?
I mean, this isn't on theme with the.
Yeah, I mean, it's political will. I mean, so I'll be very blunt. Thanks, Diane. I appreciate your honesty. We offered to write an EPA grant for the Port of Portland, and they said no. The Port of Portland said they were only going after planning dollars and no project dollars. They talked to us about 5 or 6 incredibly awesome projects that were approaching them to get involved, and they said, we told them all no, we're going to tell you no too. The Port of Portland is the largest industrial landowner in the state of Oregon, and they own most of Swan Island. If you want to have access to the waterfront, the port needs to invest in the water. So what can we do? Well, Rakai is now joining the port. I mean, I think we need to become activists. So every major industrial waterfront that was reclaimed and turned into something else led with citizens fighting for the water to be theirs. Not with a corporation, not with the government. It didn't start with policy, it started with people. So as people, whether you're an investor or not, the water is yours. Thank you.